Right now at 11, parts of St. Augustine have been taking on water for days, leaving neighbors with flooded streets from the high tide. Thanks so much for staying up with us. I'm Channing Curtis. First at 11, we are going out to our Zach Wilcox. He is actually live from Cordova Street near downtown St. Augustine right now. And Zach, multiple days of flooded roadways, and now people who live there say that they're bracing for more water.
Yeah, Channing, a lot of them told me they're just going to be hunkering down tonight. I wanted to show you these decorative rocks that are all over the street here. That's because the water came up and brushed one man's rocks into the street, and he mentioned that every time it floods, he has to go and rake them back. And he and a lot of other neighbors, the general sentiment was that it really wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the wakes coming off of cars pushing that water even higher. And fortunately for them, there's a new law in Florida that Florida lawmakers passed to address just that.
It's beautiful. I love St. Augustine.
Susan Meyerson landed her little slice of paradise last year when she retired to her dream spot in St. Augustine. But the price of paradise on Cordova Street is flooding at some high tides.
I knew that the street flooded during hurricanes, but I did not realize it did during king tides.
Meyerson says the flooding often goes down almost as fast as it comes in, so she's gotten used to hunkering down and watching the madness as cars try to ford through it.
These cars are driving down the street causing rooster tails of water, if they drive too fast.
Florida lawmakers passed a new no-wake law, which took effect in July and allows law enforcement to ticket drivers who create an excessive wake on a flooded street.
But as that water is pushing into people's yards and up close to their homes.
The new law doesn't specify an amount for a citation, but classifies it as a moving violation, which Florida statutes set the default at $60.
It's fantastic, but I don't know how you enforce that. If I were a police officer, I would not want to be standing on this corner when it's flooding.
Meyerson will keep trying to wave at cars to turn around when they hit Cordova while it's flooded, trying to save one vacation at a time from being ruined by a stalled car.
I mean, they're tourists. They don't know these roads are flooded. This has been a nightmare.
All right, so meteorologist Robert Spetta, you were out here yesterday. You had the protector in this area. I just wanted to ask what your experience was like, because when we arrived, it was starting to go down already this afternoon, but what was it like when it was at its worst?
Zach, yesterday we were seeing something very similar out there. I also saw multiple cars that were flooded. So hopefully, and maybe and this might be something that you might have talked to a few of the residents about out there, this new law that's supposed to prevent the wake and the damage to homes, do you think it's going to at least maybe another thing to encourage people to not drive through some of these flooded areas?
Yeah, maybe a preventative thing, but a lot of the folks around here mentioned that really the thing they want to see is some signage that could go up, maybe just some closures altogether when city officials are expecting this kind of flooding to come in. And speaking of this kind of flooding, I figured I'd ask you, how many more of these crazy high tides are we going to have where we're going to see it like this?
It's a good question, because the weather is improving in the sky, but we still could be seeing some more high tides over the next few days. Actually, let's put this up on a full screen. I want to take a look at some of the graphics so I can share with you, Zach, and everybody here at home. And the culprit for these high tides, one is the king tide. It goes back to Wednesday. That was our king tide, and the waters are still high from that. But then we had this nor'easter that developed off of our east coast, pulling off towards north, and a lot of times the winds were blowing on shore, just backing up those tides, and each high tide, it kept getting higher and higher. Now this is pulling north, and we have the winds coming in from the north and northwest. So that's going to help improve conditions over the next few days. In fact, right now, a lot of the rain's already tapering off. We're starting to see some breaks in the cloud cover. Temperature is a lot cooler with that northerly breeze too, but the tides are still going to be high out there. Maybe not so much overnight tonight, but definitely heading into about noontime tomorrow. So tonight, if you're out there in St. Augustine, don't want to worry about it too much. We got some cloudy skies, temperatures in the 60s there. The sunshine's going to return even here on our Sunday, but still tidal flooding could be an issue in spots. And here's a look at, the time I think it's going to be at its peak here on our Sunday. Downtown Jack, St. Mary's around 2:30, 3:30. And for the Bridge of Lions, about 1:40 p.m. So overall, the weather will be improved. But just because the water is so backed up in a lot of these bays and inlets, it's going to take a few days for it to all get drained out and get back to those normal levels. We'll talk more about that extended forecast with more sunshine in the outlook in just a few minutes.